All right, so this unit we're going to take a look at the American Revolution, specifically Georgia's role in the American Revolution. But before we look at that, we got to look at what exactly caused the American Revolution in the first place. So your learning targets today I am learning how to explain the causes of the American Revolution as they impacted Georgia, so that I can analyze the role of Georgia in the American Revolutionary era. I'll know I'll have it when I can explain how the French and Indian War and the Proclamation of 1763 impacted Georgia and led to the American Revolution. So, starting off the causes, we're going to take a look. Let's go back in time for a minute. So, remember the last unit we talked about how James Oglethorpe, or King George II, sent James Oglethorpe with the Charter of 1732 to go set up the colony of Georgia. Now, I also remember during this time, other European countries were competing for areas in North America as well. So not just Great Britain, but we had France and Spain. So all these countries, were competing for land. So France specifically was Great Britain's biggest rival. So remember, Great Britain, Georgia, it was a Great Britain territory. Now let's remember, all these countries that were coming to compete for land had economic interest in America. So specifically, France and Britain were competing over what would be considered the fur trade back in this time. So the fur trade was basically was a them trading fur of animals, and it was very profitable during this time. So the fur trade took place in where it's considered the Ohio River Valley, which is not far from the uh, state of Georgia. But France and Great Britain both wanted a piece of the action, so they couldn't come to an agreement. So they ended up going to war over it. So this war was called the French and Indian War. And don't let the title fool you. The French and the Indian were not the ones who were fighting. It was France and Great Britain who were the ones fighting. The reason it's called the French and Indian War was because the Indians that was living in the Ohio River Valley, they actually sided with the French against Great Britain to try to defeat Great Britain in the war. Ultimately, they failed. Great Britain won the war. So, because of that, France lost a lot of territories that they once owned. Then Great Britain got more territories. So this is during the French Indian War. These are all the bases of the shops where they battled. And here's the image of the actual French Indian War. And again, remember, it's not the French and the Indians were not the ones fighting. It was Great Britain and France fighting with each other. The Indians just helped the French try to defeat Great Britain. Now, as a result of the French and Indian War, remember I said Great Britain got more territories. So, looking at this map right here, this shows you all the territories the British gained and the Spanish had, and they lost. So, you can pause this video to look at this. When it comes to Georgia specifically and how they were impacted by the French and Indian War, remember Georgia was owned by Great Britain at the time, so they were happy. So Georgia boundaries expanded, just like many of the other parts of Great Britain got. So specifically, Georgia's boundaries were expanded to the St. Mary's River to the south, the Mississippi River to the west, and the land around Augusta to the north. So these are the areas in which they were expanded around. So this is what Georgia's new boundaries look like. So because Great Britain won, they got access to the fur trade. So all that little area that Georgia now owns, that was very it was good for it was good for trade. Now, unfortunately, King George III was afraid of another war breaking out because the French and Indian War did strap Great Britain for cash. It drained them financially. So, and there were Indians still living in the Ohio River Valley at the time. So, King George III issued something called the Proclamation of 1763, and it basically prohibited any Georgia colonists from settling anywhere west of the Appalachian Mountains. So, remember the Appalachian Mountains, one of the physical features of Georgia in the northern part of Georgia. So, that proclamation said King George said you cannot settle anywhere west of the Appalachian Mountains. He did this because he wanted to keep peace with the between the Indians and Great Britain because again he didn't want a war breaking out. So this is the actual proclamation. and that's King George III. Now, unfortunately, or not really unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, many other Georgian colonists didn't really care. They didn't care about the proclamation because they wanted that land. Because you got to think about it, it was good for trade. 'Cause remember, that was a big part of the reason Great Britain went to war with France because they wanted that fur trade. So many Georgians wanted that piece of the action, so they moved over there anyway. So this is what it looks like. The land King George III prohibited the Georgians from settling in. This is what it looks like in modern day. So kind of like I said earlier, many Georgians didn't really care about that. They said, "Hey, who are you to tell us where we cannot go? This is we won this territory. We should move there." All right, we're gonna stop here, and then we'll pick up later on talking about the stamp act.